Hey everyone, and welcome to Inessence Movement. I am your host, Paresh Nama. I started this show so I can introduce you to the people who motivate and inspire me, because I know that success leaves clues. And with those clues, we can ask ourselves better questions and reflect so we can find our hidden potential and discover who we really are in essence. Today on the show, I have Akash Kumar. Akash is an architect and a creative, the founder of The Human Now and the host of the Human Now podcast. Everything he does is to make positivity go louder. A friend and a brother on the path. Please welcome Akash Kumar. Akash?
Yo,
welcome. Welcome.
Made it.
This is, well, firstly, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
It's
a pleasure.
it's an honor to have you here.
Yeah.
I've been on the other side of this on your podcast, The Human Now,
Yeah.
and I can tell you, all those times I did not envy you, because this is a different battle.
Yeah.
So I think, Akash, the whole point of this show is like I said in the introduction, is to introduce the people out there to people who inspire and motivate me, and people who I think have achieved some sort of success, because I know that success leaves clues. I've got Jim Rohn up on the wall here, and a whole big part of his theory was success leaves clues, and that's why he's sort of center on the wall. So I know I've known you for a very long time, when you had a lot more hair and you're a lot shorter, but I don't think I've ever asked you, or never got into really finding out why architecture. So I think that would be a good place to start.
Yep. So for me, why architecture? I think it started when I was like a little kid. All I can remember is I was just drawing something on a bit of paper, and then my mommy just came up and she was like, "Oh, you should do architecture," because my mom was doing like drafting.
Yeah.
And he was like into QS and that, like in the construction industry.
Yeah.
And then since then I was like, oh, okay, architecture. And then like as I was moving through school and everything,
Yeah.
you know, going into like, I was like doing tech, hard materials, things like that, woodwork, construction, like putting things together. And then, I think it's just developed now or as I've also developed, to understand how space affects people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's kind of gone more into, this is why architecture is important to me.
And it remains important to you?
Yeah, I think the environments that we design us. You know, like it's we design a lot of early learning centers, and like and I can also see from my upbringing, everything that I've kind of designed in my life is how I think about the world.
Yep.
Everything that all the spaces that I've been in has defined the way I think about the world. That's what I was trying to say, you know. So the example my boss gave me, and how I kind of understood it as well, was that at school they were asked to draw their house, and every kid drawed like a box with a triangle.
Yep.
Because that's what normal house is, but his house has a flat roof, so his son just drawed like a square box. You know, and so for me that's like, architecture has so much power, and the way it can affect not just the person but a community, you know, that's got a lot of power behind it.
What's the ultimate goal with architecture?
The ultimate goal would be to create positive communities. So with what I want to do with the podcast, kind of like the podcast in our street and architecture, is that we design spaces, but we don't necessarily teach people how to use them. You know, so if we can create positive spaces, but then also like teach or educate people how to inhabit these spaces. So that's why even just like Hindu architecture really inspires me as well, because you do certain things in certain spaces because of the energy you carry. So trying to bring that into my work, and then teach people or educate people about, in this space, this is the type of activity you do, and this is the type of energy you got to have, and this is how it will affect you in your life.
So you, so you mentioned energy in there quite a few times, and you mentioned, which I want to cover a little later on, but you mentioned positivity 2 or 3 times in there. And I know, like I said earlier, the podcast and everything you're about personally is about making positivity go louder. Um, Firstly, how do you define positivity?
It's a smile.
Yep.
No, but positivity is, I think, a mindset, or yeah, I think it's more a mindset at the moment where you kind of, it's the way you think about a situation also as well.
Yeah. You said at the moment.
Yeah,
What do you
because I
mean?
feel like I'm still figuring it out.
Right.
Like, I don't think I have a definitive definition of it.
Do you think it's something you can figure out?
I think so. Yeah, like for me, it's a daily reflection which is helping me to figure out what positivity is to me. Like what is positivity, you know?
Right. So you mentioned Nash Street as well, which I didn't mention in my in the intro because I
Yep.
did talk about. So let's take a step back.
Yep.
Human Now is a baby of Nash Street.
Yep.
Talk to me a little about Nash Street and what that's all
Cool.
about.
So Nash Street for me is a creative hub or creative collective, and so the way I think about design is that design is the overruling language throughout everything creative.
Mhm.
Everything has a process.
Yep.
And then the expressions, like let's say dance has been a big part of my life. I like photography, videography, architecture, fashion. All of these are all expressions,
Mhm.
and they you can do all of them through that one process. That one process is still the same, but it's the expressions which are different. And so I was like, I like to dabble in all of them, but I'm not really good.
Yeah.
So then why not collaborate with other people who are good at what they do, but you know, and then that's how I can do my bit in that area. And so that's where Nash Street came out. And it was just the space for me to collaborate and just create stuff. And yeah, that's where we just would hang out with the disciples, and we'd be out in the weekends just shooting videos. That was a cool space because they'd do the dancing, and then it was a space to be like to just go out and not even have anything planned, but turn up to a location, find out what the location has to offer, and then work all together to produce something. And then so it's like 4 heads working together to create one thing.
Yeah.
You know, common goal. And so that's what Nash Street is for me. It's just a space to create and just try new things.
Is that and I know it's not a physical space at the moment. Is that something that you've thought about or want to create one day?
Yeah. So Nash Street, the podcast, and architecture, in the long term, will all just mush into one thing, where we're designing spaces. We're able to create lifestyles where we can say, oh, this is the type of clothes you could wear.
Mhm.
This is the type of furniture you could have. The type of sounds you could have. Type of visuals you should look at.
Yep.
Because I think that's quite important in how we develop as human beings.
Cool. So I guess with Nash Street, the latest iteration of that journey is the Human Now podcast.
Yep.
I know because I was along on that journey that it didn't start off as a podcast.
No.
Do you want to talk us through the process of getting to the podcast? And then
Cool.
we'll cover off the podcast after that.
So where it started, I was kind of like in, you know, when you come out of one of those teenage relationships,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna, like, what am I? And
It's the end of the world.
Yeah, and then I just got thinking, I was like, what's the point? And like, how am I here? What does it all mean to be, and what does it mean to be? So it's like, sweet, let's figure out what it means to be human now. You know, we're human beings and we're living now, but
did that thinking come that quickly to you though?
nah, it It came after like just asking so much like why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? I think as soon as I was like in that, I was just asking questions like why does all this happen, and I think through that process that's where that came from. And so then it was like cool, it'd be cool to make a book.
Yeah.
So then I was asking people like, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be now? What does it mean to be human now? And write it out.
Yeah.
And I'll compile them, and that's a
Yeah,
book.
yeah.
You know.
I have a confession. I don't think I ever
Yeah,
did
you
my.
Sad guy, man.
But if it was gonna eventuate into a book, I definitely would have made sure I snuck it in on time.
Yep. Yeah. So that happened,
Yep.
and then it kind of tailed off just because I think I lost interest in
Yep.
you know.
Why?
It was hard.
The book was hard, or what was the hard part?
Not the book. That was easy. It was just more just having to keep chasing people and trying to get them to understand what I was trying to do as well. Like trying to get out of them. Like just going and asking people. Like you got to find the right people as well.
Yep.
People got to be on the right wavelength, and to have to keep trying to explain to them like, can you tell me what you think it means to be human? Like I think over this time I've found not many people ask themselves that question, and so to come out and just get them to come out and ask such a big question about them and who they are, that was quite challenging.
Why is it important to ask those questions to yourself?
Because we're human beings. Like, and in our essence, that's who we are. But no one even tells us. No, like, when you grew up, did anyone say, "Oh, you're a human being. You're a human, and this is what it means to be human"?
Mm-hmm.
You know. So I think it'd be like if I just feel like it's important to have conversations or the people we're around to just be like, we're human beings. We can think like human beings, and we're finding this in the work we do as well in architecture. We're heading so far away from nature and just human characteristics. We're advancing so much with technology, but we've just forgotten where we've come from. Like our bodies aligned to the universe and the sun. We love water, we love nature, we love the trees, but that's what it means to be human. But we call them holidays. Like why are we escaping to go all these places when we just know that the water recharges us, so just go there. We recharge in the bush. That's where we find peace and quiet. And that's how you be human. But
why is that? Do you think it's because of our environment, being in the rat race, being in a big city? Do you think that's why we don't ask those questions anymore?
Yeah.
Is it a self-awareness? Or is it too hard?
I think it's a two-part. I think there's a lot of factors which contribute to it.
Yeah.
A lot of them, I think it's if on the one half it's your upbringing and how you've been conditioned, and then the other half is your self-awareness. And so like we're quite traditional family, and we've always been a busy household and things like that. But it wasn't until going through what I went through, that's where that self-awareness kicked in, and then my experiences after that, and only when I started working where I work, where you get to learn more about these types of things, and then even going to like class and stuff like that. So the more you take in, the more you kind of question and understand, like, we need to go back. So I think it is, a lot of it has to do with upbringing and what you think you've been told, and then learning, oh wait, hold on, what have I found out for myself? So I think that's where the self-awareness kicks in as well.
So you think you use self-awareness to overcome your conditioning? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
How do you develop self-awareness? Because I have to say, I think you're one of the few people who live in the real world and are quite self-aware. Like you do your daily posts and I read through those, and there's definitely a lot of depth, a lot of thought, a lot of reflection, a lot of time gone into those. How do you develop self-awareness? How do you develop self-awareness to overcome your conditioning?
I think you gotta know who you want to be, and then have the discipline to be that. So like for me, like I want to make positivity louder, and for me right now that's through my reflections. And so to do that, I got to reflect every day. And I think that's where you build also that self-awareness as well, where you sit down and you think about what you did in the day, and what was that one bit of positivity that came out of that day. And that's where you have that awareness. And then because you've done that, when like it might be like the next day or a week later, a month, like in the future, and you're having a conversation with someone, and then they'll say something, and then it'll pop up in your head, and then that's that awareness, you know. Or if someone says something that's in the opposite and that doesn't agree with you, and then you can
Triggers that thought.
you know, that triggers that thought, and you're like, oh hey, this is not right.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's when that awareness kicks in.
So I think we all know the importance of reflection. So I just want to dig a little bit deeper into your process.
Yeah.
You do these daily reflections. Talk to me about your process. Is it the beginning of the day? Is it the end of the day? Are you going into a meditative state? What do you talk to me about that process?
State. So,
or is it just you're walking and it comes to you?
right. It changes. It depends on the type of day that I'm having. Usually, if I'm having a good day, it'll be between like 6 to 10 o'clock, where I just take a moment. Like I know I might be busy, I might be doing stuff, but it'll be like, this is only going to take 15-20 minutes. So just sit down and just do it. And then you just think. And even when you think you don't have anything, you still think about what happened, and you just write, and something comes out. Other times it's like you're not having a good day, or it's just been really busy, and you get in bed and you're like still half awake. And so when you said meditative state, I was like, nah, sleepy state.
Sleep.
But sometimes you do get into a flow.
Yep.
You just like think things.
Yep.
Sometimes it comes in the shower. You know, when like you're just naked, you know, and you're exposed and you're by yourself, and you just think, like, just what happened, what I'm happy for, what did I learn, and then things flow.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I want to go back to the podcast.
Yep.
October 3rd, 2018 was the first episode. I know, again, because I was on the journey, that there was probably a dozen or so episodes before that never made it to the interwebs.
Yep.
You're at 38 episodes now. What have you learned? Because I know, like, there's a couple of things, right? I'm gonna be selfish because I'm early on in this podcasting, so I want to learn what you've learned.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's a lesson and somewhat a masterclass in just grit and just keeping with it and just going no matter what, and that consistency as well. You might disagree with the consistency thing because of what's been going on lately, but talk me through just start to finish where it started, what you've sort of learnt along the way.
Yep.
More of the behind the scenes, the
Right.
preparation stages, rather than
Yep.
what you've learnt from your guests.
Cool. It all started in a coffee shop. The three of us were sitting there, and you asked, why not why not make the Human Hour podcast? Then at that point, I didn't even listen to a podcast, you know. So yeah, then it was just preparation and just start. It was like, cool, let's start this week, and because I know that's how you like to work. If you're gonna start something, you'll just find out the quickest way to just start. So yeah, it was just sitting in a room around a table, had some cameras, some lights, and a mic, and we're like, cool, this might be the best way.
Some terrible angles.
Yeah, some bad angles, some bad audio.
Yeah.
You know, and then from there you're like, okay, so how do we improve this?
Yep.
And so then from there it was like, cool, let's get some like acoustics in here. We might have to change the way we sit. We might need handheld mics, and some better lighting. And so that means you invest into that.
Yep.
And then after that it was like, cool, let's see how long we can keep doing this. Let's like develop what the podcast is about. So that's when you have your intros, your outros, and then you have your like the middle chunk or the discussion, and then you keep practicing and practicing that. You turn up for weeks, you just keep doing that, and then it's like, cool, we've been able to go for this long and we're serious about it, so let's now invest a little bit more into our gear. And that's when the mics came in. And then after that it was pretty good, you know. We'd just record, we had a good system, we'd just set up, we'd come in, we'd record, Roshan would edit, and we'd be able to put stuff out. In this time I also learned how to set up a website, how to host a podcast on like a podcast like hosting website, and from there they distribute to like your Apples, your Spotify's, your Google Plays, I think it's called, and then also uploading on YouTube, uploading on Facebook, cutting, you know, having trailers, writing blurbs, and then things moved back to like, we changed studio back to my house, and then from there I was learning about how to set the camera up, how to think about and adjust the noise and levels, things like that, until it got to a point where now it's like, how do we get more angles? How can I control them just from sitting here? Because you also got to think about the recording lengths.
Yep.
Was that
the
good?
thing?
That might be the sweet. So this is exactly what just happened. Is the cameras have a 30-minute time limit, so then you got to think about, okay, cool, as I'm hosting this, I also got to watch my time, so I know when to get up and hit the record again. And then you also learn how to edit as well, how to align everything in the software.
Yep.
And then you've got the finished product. So yeah, there's so much learning and so much learning about the post-processing and also the setup.
Yep.
That I've learned.
So I just want to go back, because you did say you had to learn a lot about how to how to host the podcast and all of that. How did you learn all of that?
Watching other. I watch Tom Bellew.
Yep.
On Impact Theory, a lot of his things, a lot of his videos, and the way he's the man, eh? Is he up here?
He is. Oh no,
He was.
I've got him. I just don't have a frame for him at the moment,
Right.
but he is.
I reckon he's the king of
He's the best.
interviewing.
Yep.
And just the way, that's what I did. I just watched what he does. He's got an intro, he's got his main bit, and he's got an outro. And then even on his website, you go to his website and the thing just takes you to like his videos page.
Yep.
Sweet, I'll do that. And done.
That's it.
That's it.
So I think that's to me that's the ultimate success leaves clues, right? It's like Jim Rohn always used to say, is like you find out what rich people are reading and you go and read that book. You don't want to read what the poor people are reading, because you don't want to be poor.
Yep.
Right? And you've done exactly that, and I do a lot of the same. I think a lot of the past, I don't know, good 10, 20, not 10, like 12, 15 years has just been that. It's just been watching, reading, and learning, and like that. You there just embody success leaves clues in the whole concept of that. So that's really cool. So you're 38 episodes in. Where does the podcast go from now?
It keeps going.
Yeah.
But it keeps going faster. better and stronger. So what that means is this year I've invested a little bit more to make things a little bit easier.
Yep.
So that I can just keep creating without too much work on the other end after. So yeah, just finding more people to talk to and increasing the vibration of positivity.
So again, you've said positivity and you said vibration. You talk about the energy. You talk about universe. I wanna hold off on going into that just now. Just before that, I want to ask you, how do you define yourself? Like I said, you're like I said in the intro, you're an architect. You're a creative, but you're also very reflective. You're spiritual. How do you define yourself?
I like to say human being, man. Yeah. I'm just gonna decide now. I'd like to define myself as a human being.
Nice.
You know, on the Instagram handles,
Yep.
I have on there creative human vegan, maybe,
It says vegan on there, yeah.
but I think I'm just gonna change that to human being because I
Cool.
like that more.
Nice. So if people jump onto your Instagram page,
Yeah.
which is what? What's your handle?
Personals Akash09,
And the
but
human
the human now is the human now.
and they should see human being.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice. So like I said, you mentioned energy quite a few times. You talk about universe a lot. And he said vibration. What is your relationship with the universe and or energy? Well, the first question, I guess, is, are they both the same thing?
Yeah. I think for me it clicked when I read The Alchemist and understanding what the alchemist is. The alchemist is like a sorcerer who can transform
Lead to gold.
lead to gold. And so when I read that, I was like, whoa, this is cool.
Yeah.
And then the law of attraction ties in. And then in like the yellow car, you always see like the yellow car because you think about the yellow car. And so I was like, okay, so if everything's just like vibrating particles, then isn't everything just energy? And then a lot of these people talk about energy, and the things you put out or the things you think are the things you get or the things you see. And so that's where it's like, okay, so it's kind of like mind mapping inside all these things and trying to link them up. But yeah, I think that in the end, it's that the universe is just a vibrating energy. And like, how deep do we want to go?
Go as deep as you want.
So like, everything is also just an illusion, right? What you are seeing is not me. Is I'm just vibrating particles, right? At the core of all of this is just like a vibrating atom, and that builds this make, right? So if these are all vibrating particles, then opposites, I mean not opposites, but like attracts like, right? So then in the universe, if you're putting out positivity, you'll also receive positivity. But also this positivity carries an energy. Also like energy can't be destroyed and it can't be created, so it can only transform. So there's like that. There's also frequency, which is like the radio. You got to tune in to a frequency, and that's why you kind of vibe and you don't vibe with certain people. So if you've got the energy and you have a vibration and you're vibrating, then that is the vibration you're putting out. We're all just like putting out a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's what I think about. Have I answered your question?
Yes. And I think when you say like for like attracts like, instantly takes me back to Bruce Lee when he says be water.
Yeah.
Right. It's not you're not fighting the current, you're going with it, right? And
Yeah.
and I think that's what you're trying to say. You talked about tuning into a radio,
Yeah.
right? Into a radio frequency. What frequency are you on at the moment?
Right now we're in for me this is quite a positive but calm space. So I'm able to put out a positive frequency. You know, my mind's not really thinking about what I had for lunch or what I'm going to do tomorrow, or I'm sitting here with you, there's lights, these cameras, actually sitting here, you know. And the frequency I've got right now is that we're creating something to put out into the world. So let it be good stuff.
Is that the frequency that you're on as soon as you walk out these doors as well?
Most of the time, yep. Unless something has affected me in my day, then that's where that awareness kicks in.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, how long do I want to hold this thing for before I put things out again? But also just going back to the energy and the frequency, that's where it comes back into architecture and the spaces we are in, is that spaces also carry frequency. Like I was saying, this space, we've created a frequency, or you've created a frequency or energy.
Yep.
So when people come into here, they switch. It's like when we go into a temple, you know, like, or someone goes into a church, people change the way they behave. You know, the energy in a party is different to that in like a funeral. The energy shifts, and because of the people of the space and the atmosphere they're in. So how can we bring that type of thinking into the spaces we design and the conversations we have as well?
Very cool. How do it leads me like quite nicely on to my next question is, you're all about making positivity go louder and just be everywhere, and obviously just with what you're saying, that's a frequency as well.
Yep.
Right? So it's not finding it, it's not it's something that lies dormant within you, but you need to be able to tune into the right station to be able to find that positivity and become positive. How do people find that frequency, and how do people become more positive?
Humble the Poet, I remember one of his posts that he put up, and it was about, he said, don't find yourself, but create yourself. And so for me, that has always stuck, where it's, you don't find positivity, but you create positivity. And so I think it's, you reflect inwards and think what positivity is to you, like I do on my days, and then you say, okay, cool, this is what positivity is for me today, and therefore you've created that positive experience or that thought. And that's what I think creating positivity is.
So what's that quote again? You don't find it, you create it.
Yeah, you don't find yourself, you create yourself. You know, a lot of people talk about, I gotta go away and I gotta find myself, or I'm finding myself right now. Where are you gonna find yourself?
You're almost looking externally to find something that's already within you.
Why are you looking outside? Why do you have to travel to another country? Why do you have to go and try this thing, this thing, this thing? But if you just create the type of person you want to be, I want to be happy. Okay, so what does that mean to me?
Is it that easy?
It can be for some.
And for others?
For others, could take them their lifetime. Some people might not even ever get there.
Is that because they don't really want it?
I think it's because of their temperament that they're on, or again their vibration or their level.
And is that something that can be remedied though? Because again, you talked about reflection.
Yeah.
Is that something that can be remedied? Or you have to truly want it?
Truly
want positivity, happiness, to be able to
Yeah, if you really want something, you'll do everything. You'll make your whole life about it. If you really wanted to be if you want to be the richest person on the planet, you'd do whatever it took to.
Yeah, but my question is,
Yeah.
is that available for every single person?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think it's available, but I think it still comes up. It's the responsibility of that person to either open their eyes and see it or look within themselves to find it. You can show someone as many things. There's the world is abundant in things like the ocean, which is free, the bush, which is free, the air we breathe, which is free.
Yep.
But if you're not willing to look within yourself and think of that as positivity, then how much can someone else do for you?
That's very true. Just when you were talking there about like the vibrations and frequency and connecting and all of that, it reminds me of a quote that Steve Jobs used to say, and it says, creativity is just connecting things, right? And when I think of you now, like while we're having this conversation, we talked about you being a creative, then we talked about you being reflective and self-aware and all of that sort of stuff, and it seems to me that you're just along this path, but just connecting dots along the way. And so when you think of creativity in this quote, you obviously think of, arts and all that sort of thing. But I think creativity is also being able to create the life that you want to create.
I was just thinking, man, I was just thinking the exact same thing. I was like, yeah, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah. So now when I say that you're a creative, obviously you're into architecture, you're into photography, videography, all that sort of thing, and you like art, but I think defining yourself as a creative is so much more.
Yeah, I think it's deciding when you wake up in the morning who you want to be and the type of person you want to be, the type of person, the type of things you want to think about, the type of things you want to say, the type of people you want to be around, the type of things you want to eat,
yep,
the type of things you want to put your body through, the type of spaces you want to be in. I think, yeah, it's being a creative. It's in the word create for yourself, where you want to be.
Cool. I just want to take another sidestep, and
Yep.
I want to ask you about your parents
Mm-hmm.
and the lessons you learned from them, because I think everyone knows who your mum is.
Yeah.
And then your dad is like the extreme opposite of
Yep.
what your mum is. Talk to me about growing up with him and what you sort of learnt from both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. So my mum, I think she taught us to hustle.
Yep.
And how to work hard, like actually work hard. I asked her as well. It's like, if you can work hard or smart, which would you choose? She's like, you work hard. I was like,
That's interesting.
she's very traditional, and she's got that from her parents.
Yep.
And so we've grown up the same way. But she always, and I think this is where the optimism or the positivity came from. She was like, there's no such thing as can't.
Yeah.
We always grew up with you can, or you try, or you figure out a way. She always tried to figure out a way to do something. So I think that's one of the biggest learnings I've got from her, and also just watching her. She didn't really work for anyone. She's her own boss.
Yep.
And she's
in
created,
every meaning of the word.
Exactly.
Yep.
She's created the life that she wants to live. She doesn't really she does so many like jobs, but it's like one job. Like she goes and teaches at all these different gyms, but that's like her job.
Yeah.
You know, so that was cool to see where that entrepreneurial type, and also networking. She like the way she treats people and the way she kind of thinks with her head and not her heart, but then also where she thinks with her heart and not her head. You know, different situations you have to kind of do different things. And then I think my dad was very much where my spiritual learnings have come from. He's always been interested in spirituality, and I think as I've grown up, I've kind of seen him to always be just level-headed and someone who doesn't need much to make him happy. You know, he's always on just this one level. And yeah, I think that's what I've learned from him. It's just how to just be.
Yeah.
He tends to his garden. He also like works hard but he's taught me service or seva. You know, doing for other people. I think they've both taught me that.
I was gonna say.
Mum's always been like, because her work is always community driven.
Based, yeah.
So it's always been help the community, do for the community. So I think from both of them, that's one of the biggest learnings as well.
Just to give back.
And I think also another learning from them is having the mental toughness, strength, or discipline. My mum's always been against alcohol. You know, we always grew up like that, and my dad not so much. Like he's never like said it out loud as mum has, but you know, I've been in situations like where I've been around dad and around the boys, and everyone else is drinking and he's not, and you know, where as I've grown up, it's like have the discipline for yourself and for the type of person you want to be, and don't compromise who you want to be just to fit in or feel like you need to change who you are to be around other people.
Yep.
I think that's what else they've taught me.
Cool. Thank you. Now, before we wrap up, I've got a list of 5 questions here that I want to ask. I don't know what it's called yet, this little section, but
Cool.
we're going to go with it. So I'm going to ask you questions 1 to 5. At each number, that's the amount of answers I need you to give me.
Okay.
Right? So at number 1 is 1 answer, and then
Cool.
at 5 you need to give me 5.
Sweet.
So the first one, question number 1 is, what is your favorite quote?
It's the Muhammad Ali champions quote.
Which is?
Um,
Can paraphrase.
Yep. Champions aren't made. The last line is the skill. The will must be stronger than the skill. That's always stuck to me.
Yep.
But it's champions aren't made in gyms, I think. Champions aren't made somewhere. And it's about, you don't have to have all the skills in the world, but if your will is strong enough, then
Cool. Question number 2 is 2 goals for 2021.
2 goals for 2021. My work one, personal one, was to bring in a client at work. And my second one...
Which you've done, I believe, or about to do.
Just about to. Yep.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. I haven't thought of another one yet.
Okay. Question number 3, your favorite episodes. So 3 of your favorite episodes
Of
the
anything?
Human Now
Of
podcast.
the Human Now. The one we did about being stranded on an island, that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yep.
Another one that we did. I was going to say also the, I think we talked about think it was when actually Rash and Van were on, and we talked about sexuality and stuff like that. I think that one would have been another one, because that was again pushing boundaries, getting outside of my comfort zone.
One more.
One more. I think when Fraser came on, I think Fraser grew from the 10,000 Dreams. He's always been like, he was the kind of person who, after I saw his journey and what he was on, it kind of kicked me off into thinking about the podcast a little bit more. Where like, what are you actually doing?
Cool. Question number 4, and similar, but 2 good moments and 2 bad or learning moments, again from the episodes from your podcast.
2 good moments
and 2 not so good, or 2 moments where you've had the opportunity to learn.
Yep. A good moment is when, like, I know it's like a little generalization, but like when you can step back after a podcast and just be like, man, that was like powerful. Or when you talk to someone and they're like, oh, this was a really cool episode. Another moment from the podcast, positive. Did you say positive?
So 2 positive.
2 positive. Cool. Some other positive from podcast. I'd say the podcast where we had Albie Robeck and Amelia and my sister Talisha on, talked about mental health, and that kind of opened my eyes towards mental health and also what it means to be someone who is supporting someone through their journey.
Yep.
Negative experiences through the podcast. Do you mean like
Well, just things where you've sort of been like, oh, I could have done that better, or I didn't ask what I wanted to ask, or something like that. Things where you could have, didn't go the way that you expected, I guess.
This is a tough one. I never really think about it like that.
That's fine.
Like, it's more, I try and take everything as learning.
Yeah, so then 2 learnings.
So 2 learnings. I think quite early on it was like learning not to rely on people and you just do things yourself. You know, and so my learning was like always be ready to go. So I'd always have things set up the night before.
Yep.
And then another one would be that I'm a worst enemy. I'm an EP. I'm an enemy of my own progression.
Yep.
Like, if I don't put the work in, then like to get people, then they're not going to come onto the show.
Cool. And question number 5 is, it might be a little bit hard, but 5 lessons you learned, specifically in the episodes now.
Cool.
If you can dig deep enough to think back that far. Or reflect back, I should say.
Yep. This is hard. 5 lessons. From the one we did on masculinity, something I learned from that was to like check up on my friends. Because like, again, we forget that everyone's just human and people are going through things, and so just to like check in and just be like, how you doing?
Yep.
Or learning to have just learning to receive people with love when you see them, and just being happy that you get to see them when you see them. I think that's...
Sorry.
That's what that one taught me. Fraser's one taught me to dream.
Yeah.
Like you dream, but then dream higher than that dream, and don't stop dreaming. The one with Daniel, who's my mate from uni, who did the ultra marathon. His one was just persistence and not giving up, and that you can achieve anything you want. You just gotta do it. You just gotta start. Two more. On the one that won't get released, but when you came on recently, in your most recent, not the most recent one, but
the one that was alone.
The one. Yeah. It was just us two, and you're talking about your vision and the visions you had. Yeah, that one taught me just to think beyond this is just being a podcast. Think about the world you want to create. And then my last one. I think one of the most recent ones again with Devin Narsai, that it's okay not to know where you're going, and that it's okay to just stop and try new things. You don't always have to know the next step. And to know personally for myself, when I bring people onto the podcast, that they don't have to have things figured out, because there are other people. That's where, because we've had this conversation too.
Yeah.
And because when I was speaking to him, he was like, yeah, it was cool because, like, when I was having a conversation with him, I found myself saying things, but then he'd say other things because of the position he was in, which allowed me to think from his point of view.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, man.
That was you went through those 5 pretty fast, and it was impressive. So
yeah.
Thank you for reflecting back. Before we wrap up, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for being a friend and a brother, like I said, on the path. And thank you for being on the podcast again. Last question I want to ask is, and I think I know the answer, but I want to ask it anyway because that's how I end things. Who are you in essence?
I am a human being.
Human being?
Yeah.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
I just want to say, for the people listening, I had no idea what was happening today. All I knew that I was turning up and that he had things set up. He had the set set up. He had the light set up. I've also seen this journey as well. I've been on this journey from watching him watch all these people, listen to all these people for so many years. I've also seen him try things, wake up early in the morning, get on the beach and record a video. Get up on a mountain, record a video, record so many videos, so many seminars. And so today when I sat here and you finally hit record and you introduced Inessence, what was the other bit?
Movement.
Inessence Movement. It brought a sense of like calmness and happiness all at the same time. I was just like, wow. So I just want to say, thanks for like just being you and doing what you're doing.
I've got a long way to go, so.
But like it's exciting to be at the start as well.
For sure.
Just like to know that you've tried all these things and you're not afraid to try something else. Because you could have just given up. But you're trying something, and that's far better than nothing. So I just want to say that this should also be a reflection of everything that's come before. And so thank you and all the best.
Thank you.